The billboards are everywhere, inescapable, crammed into every corner of this square in India's Punjab state, screaming out the new immigrant dream. Inside one of the countless education consultant firms, a steady bustle, potential students with their sights set on Canada.
My visa letter, that visa is granted.
At home, 19-year-old Banti gets his papers in order. His childhood dream to study in Canada is days from coming true.
I think that life becomes better and it's easy for my, and I like to get my parents to their new country. So that's why Canada.
But his excitement is tempered by nerves, thinking about the younger sister and parents he'll leave behind.
It is a tough that to leave our family here, but we need to sacrifice something to get something.
It's hard to quantify the sacrifices. Bunty's father, Kuldeep, works 18-hour days as a tailor, saving every penny, and still he had to borrow from family and friends to send his son abroad. I feel tense and worried, he says. I've worked so hard. I hope it's worth it. I hope my son will do well. It's a dream for many here in rural Punjab, where a student visa is seen as a way out of this life, a chance for a brighter future. Tens of thousands of Indians head to Canada every year, and the number keeps growing. After a pandemic-induced dip in 2020, last year more than 170,000 Indians received study permits from Canada, a more than five-fold jump in the past decade. It's big business, selling a path to permanent residency, which is what the vast majority of students want, this education consultant says.
So their first question is, before asking which course they want to go, before asking which university is the best for them, so the first question is that whether I will get a permanent residency or not.
With the crush of people wanting to study abroad and the maze of education consultant companies in an industry this big, there are also sub-agents, students say, who use shady practices, faking documents, pushing students to the wrong schools, telling students they owe more in tuition and fees, only to pocket the rest.
These students, all at different stages of the application process to study in Canada, have heard the horror stories.
So many people are fake and cheat with the people.
They are spoiling many people's life, I think, because many people from poor family are funding them.
The main issue, a lack of oversight. Agents get commissions from both public and private colleges in Canada, which want the massive sums foreign students bring in.
There is no regulation in India, so everyone who wants to run an immigration business, he or she can run an immigration business. So everybody is getting his or her share.
After 21 years of guiding Punjabi students to colleges abroad, Sarabjit Singh says these days the game has changed.
They don't see the student is eligible for the visa or not. They just take the money.
With sketchy agents looking to make a quick buck. He also says Canada falls short compared to countries like Australia in policing the quality of education some private colleges are offering. And the pain falls on the students, far from home and vulnerable. There has been some effort to monitor the schools. In late 2020, Quebec briefly suspended 10 colleges to investigate questionable recruiting practices and found shortcomings. Several of the schools later filed for creditor protection, and students reported being pressured to pay their tuition fast.
So they don't want to tell anyone about their problem.
Stories like that are endlessly frustrating for Gurpreet Malhotra, who runs a community group in the Peel region outside Toronto.
How dare you squeeze the hopes and dreams of a young person into your bottom line to support the inefficiencies of the rest of your system?
He sees a blatant cash grab that compounds the stress on students navigating a new life, often in tiny, cramped apartments.
Between the federal and provincial governments, the system has been set up with enough wide gaps between them that people are falling through.
Malhotra's group works mainly in Brampton, a hotspot, with a cluster of dozens of colleges tightly packed into strip malls and shopping plazas. So popular with Indian students, it's woven into Punjabi hip-hop videos, as is the area's biggest school, Sheridan College. Its international student population soared by more than 30% in just 2 years, until the college slammed on the brakes in 2018, capping admissions for foreign students, worried about the lack of support systems for the newly arrived.
I would love to throw this open.
Sheridan has convened a roundtable with community leaders hoping to address the problems, but it's a thorny mesh of responsibility and jurisdiction, and the acute stress on students leaves many desolate. It proved too much for Lovepreet Singh. The 20-year-old jumped in front of a train last April after 3 years in Canada, leaving his family back home unconsolable. We're destroyed, his mother says. Somehow we pass the time. His father is at a loss to understand. We spoke daily, he says, but Lovepreet never told us anything was wrong. This is all they have left. The family sold their few acres of land to pay for their son's studies and borrowed heavily to keep sending him more and more money. Their dreams of a better life now shattered. Half a world away in Brampton, Bunty, starting afresh, knows his parents are also counting on him. He sits with family friends, leans on them for support. His first weeks in Canada have been overwhelming, and he's struggling to adjust.
I didn't know many people here, and in India, we usually become free and we do not have any stress, but here we need to manage everything with ourselves.
He's trying not to miss classes, trying to find a job, and navigate the stress of a life in Canada that's cold and lonely for so many. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Brampton.